What is going on, my lovely D.D.D fam? It's your boy Brendan, aka Drip, back with another video. And today's video, we recently got some indirect support for Shaddolls in this new Battles of Legends set. If you haven't already known, if you haven't seen it, it's the Shadows Light card. That card brings so much potential to this deck. It's insane, like in new combo lines and actually somewhat filmed like an actual combo deck instead of a mid-range deck, and it feels really freaking good. And we actually get to utilize more Dogmatika cards now, so it almost actually feels like an Invoked Dogmatika deck, actual Dogmatika deck with Shaddolls, instead of just using the Nadir package. The deck is really good. I took a different approach on mine than I've seen a couple of other people, so we'll talk more about that when we get into it. One thing I will say, please hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe also. Like 75% of you guys are returning members and are not subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button. I really want to try to hit 2K before the end of the summer, so please help me by doing so. Also, if you feel like you want to help me even further, check the description for the links for all the ways to support me: Patreon, Discord, merch store, Patreon, all that is down there below, and all my other social media links and stuff down there as well. Also, with that being said, can't remember what else I was going to say. I'll think about it. Let's go ahead and just get into this video. This will not be a this is not a tournament deck, so it won't have a side deck, but we can talk a little bit about the side deck when we get there. If you want to know what I would probably side, then just message me or whatever. Also, get this video to 15 likes, and I'll show a combo tutorial, because my combo is going to be a little bit different than everybody else's, because I run a couple of different tech cards. So 15 likes, that's more than manageable. I see how some of y'all destroy the like button, and some of y'all be abusing it, and not hitting it at all. So please hit 15 likes, and I'll show you my combo tutorial. Starting it out, we have 3 Meltdown, bread and butter, 4 Meltdown actually. Nothing needs to be said about this. This is all standard. 3 Alistair, 2 Invocation. This has basically been standard for years now. Nothing needs to be said about that. Let's go ahead and move on to the Shaddoll package. Shaddoll's package is where it starts to get different, because this is a different version of the deck, because we're running the Shadows Light. So some of the cards that were mandatory are not mandatory anymore. So keep that in mind. 2 Squam, 1 Windy. Ignore this. Ignore this. This is not Hedgehog. This is Shaddoll Genius, Red Shaddoll Genius. 1 Beast, 1 Dragon, 1 Aerial, 1 Falco. Now let me talk about my ratios and the reason why I opted for these. A lot of people don't run Falco, and I find that incorrect. This is the #1 grind card. Definitely when you run a small amount of Shaddolls, whether it's in your main deck or your extra deck. You know me, I like 8. Ever since Pack made the 8 count back in the day, I stuck with it, and it's been good ever since. But I like Falco because even when you run a small count in the main deck, and you run a small count in the extra deck like this one does, because since this is a more combo variant of the deck, you run lower count of names in the extra deck. So this, being able to recycle all your names from the extra deck too, is very, very crucial, definitely in this version of the deck. The rest of them are standard. The reason why I run 2 of this and not 2 of this and 1 of this like I used to is this is actually a spellcaster. It actually can be targeted with your Shadows Light. So even if you don't open Invoked Engine or any other kind of way to combo, as long as you see this in Shadows Light, you're still, in the Shadows Light resolves, you're still golden. On top of that, this with Shadows, like the rest of the engine, like with Invoked and Shadows Light, this helps you start go full combo, with the full new combo. So you kind of need this in hand. This is obviously not a spellcaster, and it's not a dark, so it doesn't really play that much of a role. Once you get 1 in rotation, you're fine. And then the 1 Genius, I like Genius a bit more than Hedgehog right now. The reason why I like that is because in this version of the deck, you're constantly fusion summoning, and when you use the Cartesia and stuff, so you are going to get more names on board, like fusion monsters and stuff, so you can foolish your Shaddoll Fusion if you need instant access to it. And other than that, you don't really need to get another name in hand, because there's no real other reason to, because you're not running L Shaddoll Fusion anymore, because you have that in a monster that's constantly recurring itself in the form of Cartesia. So you don't really need any other reason to have a name in hand, because you're not running the Earth Shaddoll monster and the extra deck one, the negate. So there's no reason to really have one in hand, and you're not running L, so it doesn't really matter. Then the rest of them are standard. I just wanted to mention that don't run Dragon, run Genius, because also Genius is very good going second, because when you're playing into a board, you can pseudo turn off almost an entire board with one Shaddoll Fusion if it resolves, because you just make you get so far ahead with Shaddoll Fusion, and use Shaddoll Fusion to make App Clone, and you can send the Genius and any of the other ones to set yourself up to get farther ahead. And Genius negates something else too. So you can negate something permanently with App Clone, and then negate a monster or whatever with the Genius, and they can't use that for the rest of the turn. And then if you have Meltdown up, they can't respond because of your fusion summoning with Meltdown. So you can basically turn off two cards, and while banishing 3 or summoning 1 from deck, and they can't respond to anything. So Genius sets you so far ahead. On top of that too, Genius's flip effect is not too bad. Definitely if you have Resh engraved, because you can flip it and make it to where a Shaddoll card can't be targeted. So if they're trying to target like your window or whatever in impermanent, you can just flip the Genius and protect it from being targeted. So you're just fine. You're just fine like that. And then 3, and then this is my spell and traps lineup. Self-explanatory. No more, no less in this version. Dogmatika side of things. Ecclesia, Cartesia, and the Fleur-de-Lis. I thought about trying to run the Maximus because it sets you up pretty far, but I don't want to play it in around with Branded going around, because I don't want them plussing on my turn. And then I know this is going to look awkward, but I'm only running 2 Nadir Servant. The reason being is because Cartesia is a pseudo Nadir Servant. The reason why is because once you make the dragon, the Cartesia dragon, it acts as a Nadir Servant to send anything from the extra deck. So you can send the Ab Cologne or whatever, and then go off from there and get into your Shaddoll package lineup. So I didn't want to clog on them, and you only want to see one time, and then 1 for recovery. Other than that, you don't want to really see them, because you just don't want to brick. So yeah, this is my Dogmatika lineup, and like, I don't know, I wouldn't change it. I like the way it's lined up. Let's see, moving on. Hand traps, non-engine. 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, 3 Book of Eclipse. I would probably run Book of Moon instead of Book of Eclipse. I just couldn't find my Book of Moons. The reason being is Book of Moon is like better than this in some situations, because your opponent doesn't draw. So I think like decks with that can't run Zeus, I think Book Eclipse is just kind of silly, because it's harder for you to clear the board if you don't run Zeus, and them drawing during the end phase just sets them too far ahead. So I don't like this, and this can get ashed. But I would run Book of Moon instead if I were you. And on top of that, the book cards are really good, because outside of Castera, they also can help your stuff being able to be dodging targeting effects like Imperm or Fenrir's or whatever else. So you just go Alistair, they just try to Imperm or Valor it or whatever, and you just Book of Moon it, flip it, and still search your invocation, and you're still going off. So it's like the book cards have additional advantage in here to where they're like going second cards, but not at the same time. Only 9 non-engine in this version of the deck. And then Shadow's Light, which is how we're summoning Cartesia. 2 Prost, 1 Called By to finish up the deck at 42. I wanted to get down to 40. The 41st and 42nd card was this and Terraforming, because I just wanted to get to Alistair quicker, and I just wanted to have this because it's Sacked by the Grave. If you want to make it a 40, I would take out the Terraforming and the Call By. Nothing else to really take out. Alright, on to the extra deck. The extra deck is like really freaking spicy. Outside of the standard part, the standard Gravity Controller, Artemis, and then Crawl Sheep. Crawl Sheep is crucial in this version of the deck. Outside of it being a Link 2, it also part of the main combo. So you just have to have Cross Sheep. That's it for the links. Fusions, 2 app, 1 construct. I know that's triggering. 1 window. This is it for my Shaddoll lineup. You loop construct with the combo. I've never found myself needing a second one in this version of the deck because this version is so oppressive. You can keep looping these with Resh or what is it called? Falco. And then same with like both of these, you can keep looping both of these, so you never really need another copy of either one in this version. Now, if you're not running the Shadows Light version, then yes, run a second construct. Invoked lineup. Now for the Invoked lineup, 1 Makaba, 1 Kaliga, 1 Agoides, 1 Raiden. Raiden is really good, definitely against Kashtira, obviously. And then 1 Oslium. I know this looks really freaking weird, but there's a version of the combo that I run that I can get access to this and not on my turn and just completely blow out my opponent. Because you can, since this is every attribute, you can target this and banish your opponent's entire field when they're trying to build it. So they basically have to deal with your Makaba, your Kaliga, or both, and your other interruptions to clear that. And then once they go through that, they're going to have to go through this, and they just can't. So it basically forces them to either have Dark Ruler or they just lose. Because they're not going to be able to play through a Makaba, Kaliga, and Winda, plus an Oslium, if worst case scenario. So there and other interruptions too, as you will see. So it's very oppressive. And then I run the Gregonol, the Cartesia Dragon. Obviously, run a Cartesia, you got to run this card. This card's really good. On top of that, it's basically another Nadir Servant. And then Savage. This is another interruption you can put up on top of all the other ones that I mentioned with the full combo. And then 1 Lulu Walleth. I run this instead of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is just imperm bait, and you never really get all the negates out of her because they just attack over her. So if you go for 3, like this deck does, you only get 1 or 2 out of it. 2 if you're very lucky, and then they just attack over it. So I'd rather run Lulu Walleth because we can hard synchro this with Cartesia and Construct. Or we can just banish the Gregonol from graveyard or field to summon this, and this making your window huge is almost impossible to out because it's a permanent buff and it just keeps buffing and keeps buffing and keeps buffing, and it just makes it to where your board is so oppressive and it's hard to out it, honestly. So that's why I opted to run that instead, and I haven't missed it because I'd rather utilize the utility factor of Crawl Sheep instead of just using it once, because this will buff this too, and then you're just this gets kind of big and kind of hard to out, and every time you just keep fusing to it or whatever, or it's anytime something summons to it, as long as you have a fusion or whatever else to it, you could just keep utilizing its effects. And if you have a fusion on one and a synchro on the other, then you're just gassed out, son. You're just gassed out, and it's really nasty. So I'd rather utilize Cross Sheep as an actual card instead of just using it once and then as a middleman to get to Appaloosa. Just personal preference. But yeah, the Oslium combo is really nasty. This is like the only wiggle spot in the extra deck. This could be anything. I just opted to run this because I like the little cheeky combo you can do, and you can run Super Poly on the side if you so choose. And then just once you use like your Makaba's effect or whatever, you have an additional interruption off the form of Super Poly and this to take their extra deck monster or whatever. So it's really nice in that regard. But you also could summon this with part of the combo too. So it's really nasty. But other than that, that's it for the extra deck and main deck. 42 main, 15 extra. There's, like I said, there's nothing I'd really change. I really like the way the deck functions. I know it looks really weird and awkward with the low count of Invoked and low count of Shaddoll, that it looks like it wouldn't be very consistent or have very much of a grind game. But with Resh and Falco, you have a serious grind game. I mean, it's Shaddoll's, for crying out loud. It has a very good grind game and recyclability in the form of App Clone, being able to recycle your stuff back to the extra deck if necessary too. Because you don't have to burn both of your App Clones. You could just use one App Clone to get your engines rolling, and the second App Clone to shuffle your stuff back, whether it's itself or something else. So Yeah. But the deck is actually just very good at grinding. It's just very good in general, and I really like this version of the deck. It feels like it's just a breath of fresh air because I really love. I've played this deck for years now, and being able to have different combo lines now, plus the old ones too, still it just feels really nice. It feels very very nice. But that's it for the video, guys. Remember, 15 likes if you want to see the combo tutorials and stuff like that, and test hands and further in-depth discussion. Because you know me, my videos are kind of longer anyways because I like to talk and I like to tell you guys my 100% reasonings on that. By the way, another reason why I only run 2 profs is because you don't need a third. You'll never resolve it 3 times, definitely in this extra deck, because the extra deck's too tight, obviously. You only really want to see it and utilize it once. But that's another thing I wanted to touch on, even though I know that was further back. But yeah, guys, if you have any further questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification so you never miss an upload. Check all my links in the description down below. And 15 likes, and I'll see you guys in the combo tutorial. Love you guys so much. It's your boy Brendan, aka Drip. Sign out till next time. Peace. Good dueling, my guys.